I caught my boyfriend cheating just before his big night. Should I expose him or exit gracefully? What should I do? I won't go into all the gory details of our relationship. We were in love, and well, I still love him. But I found out, clearly he does not. I discovered proof that he has been cheating on me for a while. In the form of small home movies of them. I don't know the girl, and from the looks of their conversations, yep, went ahead and post-discovery snooped. She has no idea I exist. Tonight is the biggest night of my BF's life. He's receiving a state award at a big dinner with a few hundred people attending, from his mom and dad to councilmen and all of that. In fact, the only reason I discovered this transgression is because I have been putting together a little video for him to enjoy some of the key moments of his life. You know, typical sappy shit. I'm burdened with a lot of power right now, and I don't know if I have it in me to do the right thing. Or if I even know the right thing. I'm blinded with tears of rage and sadness and betrayal, but at the same time, I love him, have loved him, and do I really want to do this? The relationship is over, no doubt about it. I am not a woman who will take her man cheating on her, certainly not. That's not the issue. The issue is, there are cutest selfies of the two of them. A lot of them, only shared between the two of them. Nothing lewd, there's plenty of that on camera though. Do I sneak one in the snap reel as a way of letting him know that I know? Or do I simply confront him after his moment in the sun passes? I'm not going to pick up everything and leave without cutting contact. That's not my style and it wouldn't make me feel good, just very sad. Do I do the bitchy thing for once in my life? To anyone looking at the snap reel, it would just look like a picture of him and a friend. But to him and to me, it would be a private message, an outing. Help me Reddit. I don't know what to do this time. TLDR, found out BF was cheating on me, and have the power to let him know via slipping a photo of the two of them into the snap reel showing tonight. Should I do it or gracefully exit his life? Relevant comments. Comment 1. Nah, you know what? If there's really nothing that anyone would pick up on other than the two of you, you slip that photo into the slideshow. Make eye contact with him when the photo appears on screen. Then, when it's over, you stand up and walk out. It ain't the high road, but nobody needs to walk the high road all the time. OP, I chuckled. I think the only reason I would do this is to make eye contact with him so that he knows I know. But I'm not sure I have the guts to do that. I'm not exactly Olivia Pope. Update. Found out BF was cheating on me, and had the power to let him know via slipping a photo of the two of them into the snap reel showing tonight. Should I do it, or gracefully exit his life? Well, it's been a month and a half since this all went down. I have gotten so many requests for an update and I never intended to actually give one, honestly, because I was afraid of the fallout depending on what I ended up doing. So what did I do? I did the immature vengeful thing. And I don't regret it. I took a few photos of the two of them, tasteful photos that gave off no indication other than she might be a childhood friend. I slipped them into the snap reel. And I spoke kindly of him at the podium, then after my turn was finished, I walked out. I drove home feeling calm and in control. 20 minutes later, the text started. Where did I go? What did I know? Where did I find the photos? Was there more in store for him? I texted him, I know you've been fucking her. But there are no more photos. There weren't any, and of course I left it at that. He didn't come home that night. Or the next. The next day, he called me to ask me if we could meet and talk at a public location. I agreed to meet him at Starbucks. I arrived early, waited for him. He showed up a few minutes late and took the seat across from me. He started right off with the excuses, how it just happened and he regrets it fully, she doesn't mean anything to him, and that she looked like a girl he had a crush on in high school and he was powerless against his teenage self. I didn't interrupt him, just let him have his time. When he was done and looking at me for a sign of what might happen next, all I could say was, so where did you stay the past few nights? Her house. And what did you do? He wouldn't answer. There hadn't been any doubt in my mind. Really. I knew I was leaving him. He talked over himself, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, saying he'd change. I told him that I didn't want him to have to change himself. That if who he was, naturally, was someone who cheated on his girlfriend, then that's not someone I wanted to be with. He said that he was thinking of proposing to me, and all I could say after that was, good thing I found out before. Fast forward to a few weeks later. He's moved out and I'm doing well. We have cut off contact. People ask me about him all the time, and I just let them know, he left me for a girl who looked like his high school crush. So that's the end. We are broken up. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. I don't feel any regret for how I handled it. Like one commenter said, there's no need to take the high road all the time. I added the photos to the snap reel. He saw them. We broke up and are never getting back together. I don't regret my choice, only that I wasted 3 years with an overgrown child. Now to the next story, story 2. Am I the asshole for demanding my husband block his female friend who warned him against marrying me? I, 26, want my husband, 27, to immediately block one of his friends, Kyla, 27. He thinks I'm overreacting, and wants opinions from some cool-headed people on if I'm just acting crazy, or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he has been close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them, and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert, and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others, we both are ND, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has a severe social boundary issue. We got married 2 years ago, and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our second marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left, and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up, 'cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years. Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl for him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point, as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has of course not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college, and he always politely declined. I asked why I said no to her, and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type, based on me or the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla, and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I am being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us, and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down, and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the asshole for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I'm overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me, and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see that bitch Kyla's face again. Update. I had posted almost 6 months ago regarding my husband's friend Kyla betting that our marriage would not last for more than 2 years. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her, because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic shit to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote the post, My husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments, and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend Joanna 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went to a conference in Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made a mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she was the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went into detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram, as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile, with no followers. We checked her photos and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation, and he did not think too much of it. He asked me how I knew it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference, and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to share more proof, as she told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and plan to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages, where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it, as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them. And she told me that he invited her to the room at nights and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted. They do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to fuck off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth, and she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video games, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2-3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of shit. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up, and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to fuck his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that it's luckily, we are nerds and played video games at nights before sleeping, else, props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of shit, and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I am busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point I am not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna, and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me, so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband. But I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. Am I the asshole for putting my profoundly autistic daughter on birth control without her consent to alleviate her painful and confusing menstrual cycles? I, 45F, have a daughter, 19F, Layla, who is profoundly autistic. She was diagnosed as a young child, and due to the efforts of her speech and OT, and her own hard work, she has been able to gain a lot of independent daily living skills over the years. As she started hitting the teenage years, though, we started facing an extreme struggle with her period. Due to her diagnosis, she is estimated to have the developmental age of a 3 or 4-year-old child. This makes her month cycle extremely painful and confusing for her. She does not know or understand why she is bleeding or in pain. She suffers from bad cramping, which is difficult to treat as she has a hard time communicating when she is in pain. Aside from the pain, the hygienic side of her cycle is very difficult for both her and me. Due to the painful nature of her cycle, keeping things consistently clean is extremely hard, as there is a negative association there, and she does everything she can to avoid dealing with her period. After trying different OT therapists and plans, both me and her father, her OT therapist and her pediatrician have decided the best thing for her is to be put on birth control so her cycles can be managed. We safely have her skip the majority of her cycles during the year, and it has been a blessing for us. It has been 4 months, and not only has she been able to avoid the pain she goes through every month, but her general mood and demeanor has improved as well. Her therapist believes her irregular cycle was causing her a lot of anxiety. The issue comes with my Sile Ashley. She was over at the house yesterday having lunch with us when she asked how Layla had been doing recently. I told her that she was doing very well and explained to her the changes we made in the last few months. Ashley was horrified. She started ranting about how I am taking away my daughter's autonomy by putting her on birth control without her consent, and that the long-term effects could hurt her fertility. Layla will never have children, and will never have an intimate relationship with others due to her developmental age. I tried explaining this to Sil, but she held firm. I honestly don't know if she has a very good grasp on autism or developmental disorders at this point. I ended up asking her to leave as she was getting louder, and I didn't want her to upset Layla. I let my husband know what had happened when he got home from work. Layla had already texted him trying to shame him for allowing Layla to be put on birth control. She has now involved my MIL and has even reached out to my own mother over Facebook, claiming my husband and I are taking away our daughter's autonomy. I really think that birth control was the right choice for our daughter, but the constant barrage of insults is starting to make me question things. Am I the asshole? Now to the next story, story 2. My doctors told my husband and me that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. My doctors told my husband, 30M, and I, 31F, that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. This was a planned baby, and I'm absolutely devastated. Me and my husband met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are gonna wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate, and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed, and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care, as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternity leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of the child. Now we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already, I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. TLDR, husband and I learned that our planned daughter has many birth defects that would devastate her quality of life. I want to abort in order to save her from an existence full of pain. My husband wants to keep her so we can love her for however long she lives. Relevant comments. My daughter has a 20-year-old autistic bipolar daughter, my granddaughter. There are 3 daughters in total, one older and one younger. The autistic child cannot self-entertain and will always have the mentality of a 6-year-old child. My daughter's marriage fell apart and the ex-husband wasn't around to take any responsibility. Plus, my daughter was rarely reimbursed for medical and dental out-of-pocket expenses. The oldest daughter, the glass child, was parentified so her mother could work nights. She now has gone no contact with her mother and blocked her everywhere due to her childhood losses. The younger child has lived in the shadow of the autistic sister and has many issues going on. My daughter can't leave the 2 of them at home because the older sister becomes violent. When toddlers, the youngest had to have her hair cut short because her autistic sister would pull her long hair out by the roots and rip her scalp all bloodied. It was awful. My daughter is movie star beautiful, but men who have professed their love for her and had wanted to marry her, but not the disabled daughter. My autistic granddaughter cannot self-entertain and is a Velcro person so is always there. It's been a family tragedy. My daughter is a prisoner in her own home. My ex-husband would not help. I work full-time and had gone to school at night so I was pretty much depleted. Plus, my autistic granddaughter is hard to keep. I love my granddaughter, but I would not wish her life or my daughter's life on my worst enemy. It hurts me to say this, but it would be a mercy to not bring this severely disabled child into the world. What a cruel thing to bring this unborn child into the world. The husband is out of his mind with grief and cannot see the whole picture. The wife needs to make up her own mind, even with the sad choice to divorce if it comes to it. To the haters out there, unless you have walked in another person's shoes, you cannot understand this catastrophic situation. I would also want to terminate. Can you guys talk to a therapist? Do you have time? OP's reply, we have a bit of time, but if we don't resolve this soon termination will be impossible. Update. Thank you all so much for the advice and kind words. I'm sorry I haven't responded to many chats and comments. I've read through them all. The empathy and compassion shown is truly touching. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed and it was still our original diagnosis. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept on raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now, but I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy. That I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room and apologized for everyone and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob and he held me all night. My original plan was that my mom would drive me to the hospital, then once it's done a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before he said he couldn't miss a full day of work, but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him and then the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning the termination was done. It went fine with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. After I was done he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there I saw just one note on the counter saying he can't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless. Relevant comments. I'm a doctor and I work in an ICU seeing children exactly like the one you may have had. If I were in your position I would have done the same thing. Let me be clear and say that nobody in your partner's position has a clue of the emotional toll that parents of severely disabled children go through. Everyone thinks they know what it would be like, but they're often wrong, and more often the parents of the child are struggling a lot. Whatever happens, FYW, I think you made the harder, but smarter decision. Who's to say your husband wouldn't leave the exact same way after seeing your daughter suffer alive in actual pain? Leaves you a note on the table one night, I can't do this, and leaves you to care for her yourself. My mom said I shouldn't come for Christmas because my step-grandparents hated me and would cut their inheritance if we stayed in touch. My stepdad's parents, who despise me, would be at Christmas, so my mom told me I wasn't welcome. I severed all contact with them and withdrew their financial support, but a few months later they were at my house. Long pauses at the beginning of phone calls have always annoyed me since they seldom contain pleasant news. My mother's hesitancy on the other end of the telephone, 3 days before Christmas, told me everything I needed to know before she even said anything. Erica, honey, I think it would be better if you didn't come home for Christmas this year. I almost dropped my mug of coffee. Mom, what are you talking about? It's just, well, Richard's parents are coming and they don't want to see you, and they've made it quite clear. In an attempt to comprehend what I was hearing, I collapsed onto my couch. My stepdad, Richard, had been married to my mother since I was 10 years old, and although his parents had never been fond of me, this was different. My mother chose them over me in this situation. I tried to maintain my composure as I said, since Dad passed away, we've always celebrated Christmas together. It's our custom. I know, honey, but what? You're seriously picking other people over your own daughter? No matter what reason she offered, the silence that ensued was terrible. Her voice was strained when she did speak. Erica, they've threatened to cut Richard out of their will if they find out we're still in contact with you. They told us they won't leave him an inheritance and will stop talking to us altogether. I was going to yell. So this is about money? Quickly. No, it's not just that, she said. I've told them that we haven't been in touch with you for years. I need you to go along with this. It's just this once. There was no comedy in my laughter. You want me to pretend I don't exist in your life? That's your solution? Richard's parents are difficult people, Erica. They're spiteful and stubborn. We need to make sure they believe no one in the family talks to you anymore. You need to understand. I ended the call. I was no longer able to listen. You would have to go back more than 20 years to comprehend why Richard's parents detested me so much. When I was 4 years old, my real dad passed away in a vehicle accident. Before she met Richard, a widower with a daughter named Hannah who is 9 years old, it was just Mom and me against the world for 6 years. Richard and Hannah moved into our home after they were married. At first, everything was okay. I got along well enough with Hannah. At times, we quarreled like sisters, hurling pillows at one another and squabbling over who got the remote control, all typical child behavior. However, Richard's parents detested me from the beginning. They referred to me as impolite and unruly. They would comment, "It's obvious she grew up without a father," as if I weren't even there. They would bring Hannah gifts when they came to visit, but nothing for me. They would never speak to me, but they would chat through and around me. When I was 14, the worst of it occurred. Hannah and I were left with Richard's parents while Mom and Richard went on vacation. Normally, Mom's sister, Aunt Sarah, would host us, but she was occupied at the moment. Despite their reluctance, Richard's parents decided to have us, especially me. Hannah and I argued over the laptop after spending a week together locked up. Tensions were high and we were both really bored. I gave her a gentle shove during the fight, but she lost her equilibrium, fell awkwardly, and fractured her arm. Hannah let out a scream that had my blood run down my spine. Her grandparents rushed over. Her grandma called Richard in a fit of hysteria while her grandfather took her to the hospital. She screamed into the phone, "You have to come home now." Erica beat Hannah badly and broke her arm. "She needs to be in a psychiatric clinic, she's completely out of control." Everything changed after that call. They stole my phone, locked me in a bedroom, and only unlocked the door to let food in. They referred to me as a rabid animal, and threatened to put me in juvenile jail. 3 days after taking a short trip, Mom and Richard returned home. In a fit of rage, Richard claimed he couldn't trust himself around me. I was sent to spend 2 months with Aunt Sarah. Richard hardly talked to me when I got home. Ironically, the incident strengthened our bond, and Hannah and I swiftly reconciled. I never had anger management difficulties, so my parents had me go to therapy. After that, the atmosphere at home was oppressive. It was like fleeing prison when I turned 18 and moved to a different place for college. I only communicated with Mom and Hannah when I was in college. I worked really hard to succeed while studying management and administration. My buddy Olivia and I were able to secure internships at her father's restaurant company during our junior year. Everyone was taken aback by the development plan I created. Profits increased in a matter of months when it did work. Olivia's father gave me a job opportunity when I graduated. Olivia wanted me to be her executive director when he turned over the restaurant management business to her. I would effectively be her right-hand lady, in charge of modernization and business development. I changed that chain of restaurants with Olivia. We built a mobile app, established food delivery services, and set up areas where patrons could use laptops to place food orders. In order to demonstrate how hygienic and effective the kitchens were, we set up live stream cameras in each restaurant, created designated areas for selfies, and began culinary lessons. Young folks began to pour in. We drew in a ton of new clients while retaining the old ones. When business took off, I was suddenly paid more than I could have ever imagined. I had savings for the first time in my life. At that point, Mom called to discuss Richard's work-related issues. She said that he had been fired. "We're struggling to make the mortgage payments." Richard then picked up the phone. "Erica, I'm sorry for everything. You're our only hope right now." I thus consented to assist. I sent them money each month to cover their mortgage. I continued to pay even after Richard eventually secured part-time employment. I didn't find it difficult, and they had become accustomed to the assistance. I believed I was purchasing a stronger bond with them. I was mistaken. I spent what seemed like hours sitting on my couch, staring at my phone after that terrible chat with Mom. My mind was jumbled. I needed someone who would listen to me. I rang Hannah's phone. "Hey sis, what's up?" Hannah's upbeat tone was a stark contrast to my own emotions. "Mom just called," I answered, a little trembling in my voice. "She told me not to come home for Christmas because your grandparents will be there. Your grandparents threatened to cut Richard out of their will if they found out they still talk to me. Apparently, she's been telling them for years that they don't have any contact with me." Hannah seldom ever used profanity. "That," she said. "What the hell is wrong with them?" "She wants me to play along," I said. "Pretend I'm not part of the family anymore, so your grandparents will leave the money someday." Hannah answered, "Well, the hell with it," with firmness. "If you're not welcome there, then I'm not coming either. If they're choosing money over you, then they can do Christmas without both of us." My eyes filled with tears. Hannah was the one member of my family who always had my back, even after everything we had been through. I felt a little better once I hung up with Hannah. I gave some friends I knew had no family Christmas plans a call. By the end of the evening, Hannah and 5 of my friends and I had planned an unplanned orphan Christmas at my flat. Hannah showed in the day before Christmas with a bag full of decorations and a little suitcase. She exclaimed, "I raided the dollar store," when she threw tinsel and glittery decorations on my coffee table. "Your place needs some Christmas spirit." We drank wine, caught up, and decorated my apartment that evening. Neither of us brought up Richard, Mom, or the inheritance issue. For a few hours, nothing had changed. The formal, stressful events we had experienced as children at home were not at all like Christmas Day. Around noon, my pals showed up with food, beverages, or games. We probably drank more than we should have, ate too much, and laughed too loudly. It was authentic, yet it wasn't conventional. Even Hannah acknowledged at the conclusion of the evening that it was the finest Christmas she had experienced in a long time. Naturally, though, reality has a way of getting in the way. Before going to bed, I was browsing Instagram when I came upon a post from Mom. In their living room, she was grinning beside Richard's parents, who were all dressed in similar Christmas sweaters. It said, "So blessed to spend this special day with family." Family. The word made my stomach turn like a dagger. I was no longer family. It was inconvenient to conceal the truth about me. That night, I was unable to sleep. Every monthly mortgage payment I'd been making and the Instagram post kept playing back in my head. I believed I was mending old wounds and constructing bridges each time I sent that money. I now saw that I had only been purchasing the false sense of family. The following morning, I decided. I canceled the automatic transfer to my parents' mortgage account by using my banking app. I was tired of being exploited, even if it was small. It was 2 weeks later. Thankful for the post-holiday influx of new restaurant patrons who had made New Year's resolves to try new places, I poured myself into my work. I welcomed the diversion as Olivia and I worked on plans to open a new site. Then Mom called. A part of me wanted to hear what she had to say, but I almost didn't respond. She said, "Erica, there's a problem with the mortgage payment," without even extending a greeting. "Did you forget to send it?" "I didn't forget," I answered, maintaining a steady tone. "I canceled it." Silence fell for a beat. "What do you mean you canceled it?" "I mean I'm not paying your mortgage anymore," she said in a panic. "But we're counting on that money. The payment is due today." "You should have thought about that before you betrayed me for your in-laws' money," I replied. "You chose them over me. Now you can ask them to pay your mortgage." "This is about Christmas, Erica. You're being childish." We explained why. "You explained that money is more important to you than I am." "I am message received." Then her voice shifted from one of terror to one of accusation. "I know what you did. You convinced Hannah not to come for Christmas. You turned her against us." "What I didn't do, you know? What I had to tell Richard's parents? That she was seriously ill? I had to lie and make up a whole story because of you. What I was hearing was unbelievable. You've gone mad because of this inheritance thing. Normal people don't invent illnesses for their children, Mom. They don't disown them for money." "You have no idea what you're talking about," she said. "After everything we've done for you." "What exactly have you done for me lately, Mom, besides kick me out of Christmas and lie about my existence?" She ended the call. The months that followed were calm. I didn't get in touch, and Mom didn't call again. Hannah stayed in contact and went to visit whenever she could. She had turned into the only family member who had not betrayed me and my only true link to my former existence. I threw myself into new initiatives and concentrated on my work. Olivia and I opened a new restaurant across town as part of our restaurant brand expansion. It was a good business. Life was steady. However, when I thought about my family, I still felt empty. Then Hannah called one evening in late April. "Hey, I'm going to come visit you tomorrow. Is that okay?" Her voice seemed strange, but I didn't press the issue. When Hannah felt like it, she had always been straightforward. My doorbell rang shortly after noon the following day. When I opened it, Mom and Richard were standing there in addition to Hannah. I took a step back and nearly slammed the door, asking myself, "What the hell?" Hannah raised her hands. "Hear them out, Erica, please." It was clear from their faces, Hannah's begging, Richard's uneasiness, and Mom's anxiety, that this would not be a quick chat. I suppose they were strangers by now because they filed into my living room like strangers. Mom held her handbag close to her chest. Awkwardly, Richard stood beside the window. Hannah cleared her throat. "So, I think Mom and Dad have something they want to say." Mom inhaled deeply. "Erica, we came to apologize. What I did at Christmas was wrong." She appeared to think that was sufficient, but I waited for more. "That's it?" I inquired at last. "We're missing you," Richard continued. "The house isn't the same without you." I didn't care that my voice was rising. "The house I wasn't welcome in at Christmas? The house where you pretend I don't exist whenever your parents visit? You're going to have to do better than we miss you." Hannah put her hand on my arm. "Let him finish, Erica." Mom gave a clumsy smile. "You're right to be angry. We betrayed you." "I betrayed you. I put money ahead of my own daughter, and I've been sick about it ever since." "Your financial assistance is no longer required," Richard stated. "I found a new job, better than the old one. We're managing the mortgage payments just fine. That's not why we're here." I said. "Then why are you here?" "Because we're family," her voice cracked. And we almost threw that away. For what? For my in-laws' approval? For money we might get someday? It was wrong. I hesitated because of something about her genuineness. I had been prepared for manipulations, guilt trips, and justifications. I wasn't expecting real regret. I asked Richard, "What about your parents? They still planning to write you out of the will if they find out we talk?" Richard's gaze shifted to his hands. I called them after you stopped sending money. Told them I wasn't going to pretend anymore, that you're my daughter too. They flew off the handle, threatened to disown me, just like they said they would. We had a huge fight. So what changed? I did, said Hannah. I called Grandma and Grandpa and told them I knew everything, that I fully supported you and Dad, and if they couldn't accept you as part of our family, then they'd lose me too. Mom gave a nod. They called back 3 days later. Said they'd calmed down and were willing to accept things. They're not ready to lose Hannah. I was at a loss for words. I wanted my family back, therefore I wanted to forgive them. Another part recalled how effortlessly they'd ignored me when it suited them. I was honest when I said, I don't know if I can trust you again. You shut me out when it suited you. What happens next time they threaten to cut you off? Mom said. There won't be a next time. We've drawn a line. You're our daughter, and that's non-negotiable. I glanced at Mom, whose eyes were full of tears, then at Richard, who appeared more sincere than I'd seen him in years, and finally at Hannah, who gave me a supportive nod. I said, I'm not saying everything's fine now, with caution. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to try. Mom sobbed and came running to give me a hug. I didn't want to fully surrender, so I stayed rigid in her arms. When Mom eventually let me go, Richard remarked, We've been looking into family therapy, all 4 of us, to work through the old stuff, not just this recent mess. Therapy? My astonishment was evident. When I was a teenager, Richard had always laughed at my forced anger management classes. Hannah said, It was Dad's idea, with a proud expression on her face. He says we all have baggage we need to unpack. Richard said, I should have defended you years ago. After the accident with Hannah's arm, I knew it wasn't your fault, but I let my parents dictate how I treated you. That wasn't right. I reflected on the years I had spent trying to gain his approval, the therapy sessions in which counselors attempted to fix me when I wasn't damaged, and the fact that I had continued to provide for them financially in the hopes that they would still love me. Hours of agonizing but important discourse lasted that evening. We discussed the Christmas betrayal that had been the final straw, the past scars I believed had healed but obviously hadn't, and what it would take to regain trust. We had a plan by the time they departed, which included regular dinners for the 4 of us, no in-laws allowed, weekly family therapy sessions beginning the following month, and explicit rules about what was and wasn't appropriate moving forward. It was a start, but it wasn't forgiveness yet. Hannah remained after they left. With the familiarity of a sister who knew she was welcome, she fell into my couch. You okay? She inquired. I don't know, was my honest response. Part of me wants to believe them. Another part is waiting for the other shoe to drop. She pulled at a loose thread on my throw cushion and said, I understand that. For what it's worth, I think they mean it this time. You should have seen Mom after Christmas. She was a mess, kept saying she'd made a horrible mistake. Did they ask you to arrange this? Hannah gave a headshake. It was my idea. I was tired of being the go-between, of hearing them talk about how much they missed you while knowing they'd hurt you so badly. I reclined, suddenly worn out. I'm not sure family therapy is going to fix everything. Probably not, added Hannah, but it's a step. And I'll be there too, making sure they don't backslide. Regardless of blood, I grinned at my sister, my true sister. When did you get so wise? Learned from the best, she replied, putting her hand on my shoulder. You never gave up on me, even when we were kids and I was a total brat. Now it's my turn to not give up on this family. After Hannah departed that evening, I sat by myself in my apartment contemplating forgiveness, second chances, and family, both the one you choose and the one you are born into. I wasn't sure if I was prepared to give my parents back complete control. Once lost, trust is difficult to rebuild. But perhaps, just perhaps, we could use the fragments of what had been destroyed to create something new. As you can anticipate, the first family therapy session was quite uncomfortable. We were asked to gather in a circle and discuss our expectations with Dr. Levine, a kind-eyed, no-nonsense woman in her 50s. Mom wiped at her eyes and whispered, I just want my family back. I want to understand why I was so easily disposable, I replied. Richard stirred uneasily. I want to be a better father to both my daughters. Always the mediator, Hannah declared. I want us to be honest with each other. No more secrets or lies. Dr. Levine gave a nod. Those are all valid desires. This won't be easy, but acknowledging what you want is a good start. We had frequent meetings throughout the ensuing weeks. We continued to show up even though the sessions occasionally turned into arguments or tears. We slowly and carefully worked through years of miscommunications, grudges, and anxieties. We discussed how Richard's parents had used their inheritance as a weapon to dominate the family, why I had felt obligated to provide for them despite everything that had transpired, and the Christmas treachery that had finally crushed me. We began repairing our relationship in little steps outside of treatment. Mom used to call just to talk. Richard believed I might find the restaurant management articles he provided me interesting. Hannah and I continued to have a closer sisterly closeness than before. After 2 months of treatment, Richard's disclosure about his own upbringing was a turning point. My parents always used money to control me, he recalled as a schoolboy. If I didn't behave exactly as they wanted, they'd threaten to cut me off. When I wanted to marry my first wife, they threatened to disinherit me because they didn't approve of her. I stood my ground then, but after she died, I guess I didn't have the fight left in me, so when they started treating Erica the same way. He looked at me with sincere regret as he confessed, I fell back into old patterns. At Dr. Levine's prompting. I'm so sorry, Erica. I failed you. That day, something changed within me. For the first time, I saw Richard as someone who had been controlled his entire life, just like I had been, rather than as the stepfather who had deceived me. Better was due to both of us. By the 3rd month of therapy, I informed him, we were prepared to put our new family dynamics to the test in the real world. Mom asked me to join them for dinner in the house where I grew up. It had been before Christmas when I last visited. Anxiety made my stomach turn as I pulled into the driveway. What if Richard's parents appeared out of the blue? What if this whole thing was a sophisticated ruse? However, the scent of my favorite dish, Mom's lasagna, greeted me as soon as I entered, and the dining room was adorned with pictures. Pictures of Hannah and I together, pictures of me graduating from college, and pictures of the 4 of us in better times. Mom said, we put these back up, as she followed my eyes. They belong here, you belong here. It seemed like progress, even if there were still awkward pauses and moments when old tensions threatened to reappear during dinner. Richard pulled me aside after supper. After saying, I need to show you something, he ushered me into his office. He had a legal paper on his desk. I said, what's this? I've been working with a lawyer to ensure that whatever happens with my parents' inheritance won't affect what I leave to you and Hannah. You'll both be treated equally in my will, no matter what. I was dumbfounded when I looked at him. It's not about the money, he rapidly explained. It's about making sure you know that you are my daughter, Erica, not by blood but by choice. And nothing, not my parents, not their money, will ever change that again. I cried then, even though I didn't weep much. That night, I contacted Hannah on the way home. I informed her, you won't believe what just happened, as I described the events of the night. I believe it, she declared. Dad's been working on that thing for weeks, he wanted it to be perfect for you. I asked out loud, when did everything change so much? After Hannah said, when you stood up for yourself. You showed them they couldn't have it both ways. They couldn't treat you like garbage and still expect your financial support. It made them realize what they were losing. She was correct. I had forced them to make a decision by emotionally and financially cutting them off. Surprisingly, they had picked me. Dr. Levine requested us to discuss our progress at the following treatment session. I've learned that I can't control how others treat me, but I can control how I respond, I replied. I don't have to keep paying, literally or figuratively, for people to love me. I've learned that I married a strong woman, Richard stated, addressing his mother, who raised an even stronger daughter, and that standing up to my parents was long overdue. I've learned that family isn't just about blood or obligation, Mom said. It's a choice we make every day. Hannah grinned. I've learned that my sister is a badass who doesn't take crap from anyone anymore. That made us all laugh. We all gathered to dinner at a brand new restaurant that my employer had opened 6 months after Christmas that nearly killed our family. I came to the crucial realization that we were no longer the same family as previously as we sat around the table laughing and telling stories. The foundation of the family had been fear, duty, and unspoken grudges. It wasn't flawless. We still experienced horrible days. Even though Richard's parents had been relatively silent since our reunion, they were still a complex part of our lives. Sometimes old hurts come back. However, we were determined to resolve it together, and that was what made all the difference, I was starting to think. I was disowned by my entire family after being falsely accused of sleeping with my cousin's fiancé. Now, the truth has finally come to light. How did my life even become this? Seriously, I can't even wrap my head around it. Family disowned me, friends turned their backs, and I'm even banned from my favorite pub. I swear, I didn't do anything to deserve this. Okay, let me start by reintroducing myself. I'm Alex, and this is the living hell story that started about 3 months ago. I was honored to be a groomsman for my cousin, Ethan, who was getting married to Chloe. Chloe had been one of my closest friends since we were toddlers playing in the sprinklers. The wedding day arrived, and I was busy directing guests to their seats. Everything was normal until Ethan stormed in, dragging a group of groomsmen and other people after him, all looking agitated. Ethan looked at me and growled, "Alex." Before I could even mumble a reply, bam! A punch landed square on my face, then, bam, bam. A combo of punches, you guys. He was yelling while hitting me, "How could you do this? I know everything." The groomsmen jumped in, finally yanking him away from me. I was astonished, my mind whirling, and I couldn't understand anything. What's going on? What did I actually do? They hurriedly took me out of the room, leaving me with a lot of questions in my head. The next stop was the clinic. My lip was swollen, my nose was bleeding, and my left eye was going black and blue. The doctor patched me up and asked if I wanted to pursue charges, but all I wanted to know was why Ethan had freaked out. Dad texted, "Wedding is off. You have till the end of the day to get your belongings out of the residence." WTF, I hadn't lived with my parents in months, but I still kept some stuff there. This text was like an extra hit in the belly, and I hurried immediately to their house to get some explanations. When I entered the house, my parents and siblings stared at me as if I were a criminal. It was then that I realized I was being accused of sleeping with Chloe, Ethan's future wife. What? I was shocked. I disputed it immediately, but no one listened. My brother slammed a bag containing my belongings at my feet and kicked me out. "Get out. Don't ever return." I was absolutely disoriented, not knowing what was going on or where it was coming from. I attempted to contact Ethan for an explanation, but he had blocked my phone number. Calling anyone in the family resulted in being yelled at or getting hung up on. I finally decided to call Chloe. The initial call was a catastrophe. We were both yelling and blaming each other, but when we settled down, we recognized something was wrong. We were both caught in a trap, but we had no idea who set it or why. To avoid making matters worse, we agreed not to meet in person and instead texted and emailed to put things together. No matter how hard we tried, we kept hitting dead ends. Everyone believed we were having an affair, but when we asked for proof, they remained mute. When I finally spoke with Ethan, he asked for proof that I hadn't slept with Chloe. I was stunned. My family cut off contact, acquaintances turned their backs, and even my favorite coffee shops and pubs refused to serve me. It turned out that Ethan had connections all over the place and was not afraid to use them. After Ethan moved out of her apartment, her family abandoned her, and friends evaporated. To make matters worse, her co-workers were making her life terrible. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I told Chloe I was leaving this dead-end town. She agreed, and we decided it was better to go our separate ways and start over somewhere else. Throwback Thursday, 5 years later. It's been 5 years since I last had a proper conversation with my family. 5 years since my cousin Ethan's almost wedding. Back then, I was accused of sleeping with Chloe, his soon-to-be wife. Those accusations were completely fabricated, but who cared? Ethan punched me in front of everyone, the wedding was canceled, and my entire family turned their back on me. At first, I tried to clear my name, begging them to believe me, but after a while, I realized it was pointless, so I left everything behind and moved away. Chloe went through the same thing. Her family also believed the lies and disowned her, so she, too, decided to start over, but in different states. The incessant accusations and gossip exhausted me, so I decided to break off all links with people from my old life, except for Chloe. She was the only one who fully understood what I had gone through. We kept in touch through social media and the occasional phone conversation, but that was it. For the past 3 years, I've been with Olivia, an amazing woman. I told her the whole story about Chloe and me, every painful detail. Surprisingly, even though they've never met, Olivia and Chloe get along great. They even share a love for the Hunger Games. Every other week, they hop on Zoom, sipping wine and snacking, chatting about books and life. It's amazing. Olivia and I have been invited to Chloe's wedding next month, which will be the first time I've seen her in 5 years. I have big plans of my own. I'm going to propose to Olivia, not at the wedding, nor even during that trip. I don't want to overshadow Chloe's big day, but the prospect of sharing my life with Olivia grows stronger by the day. So why am I telling you all of this? Because last week, something happened that shocked me to the core. A ghost from the past decided to re-emerge. Update. That day, Olivia was working from home. She does it frequently these days, when she doesn't want to deal with the terrible traffic. Her job is rather flexible. I'm not that fortunate. Olivia contacted me around lunchtime. She typically contacts me when I'm at work, so seeing her name appear on my phone in the middle of the day seemed suspicious. Her voice was unsteady as she told me what had happened. After going out for lunch at our favorite shawarma establishment, she returned home to find a letter posted to the door. "We need to talk, I'll be returning tonight." Although there was no signature, she believed it was for me because my name was on the door. Olivia was terrified by the note, so she locked all the doors and stayed inside all day. When she told me about it, I requested an early leave from work and rushed home. We stayed up late that night, waiting to see who left the note, and even though I didn't think it was necessary, I didn't say anything when Olivia grabbed a baseball bat and placed it next to the couch. She was clearly on edge, and I didn't want to make things worse. But no one came, and the night was silent. For the next 2 days, nothing happened. No strange notes, no unexpected visits, just an odd, disturbing silence. Then, on the evening of the third day, the doorbell rang, and I opened it to see a man standing there, looking exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days, and smelling faintly of alcohol. "Hey, Alex," he began, his voice raspy and familiar. "Long time no see." A shudder rushed down my spine as soon as he spoke. I recognized the person standing in front of me as Ethan. Honestly, I didn't want to allow Ethan in. The last time we spoke, he almost hurled a beer glass at my face, so when he popped up unexpectedly, I wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet. This is how our first discussion went. "Ethan, won't you invite me in?" "Me? No. I don't think that will happen." "Ethan. Okay, fair enough. I came to apologize. I know the truth now." "Me. I accept your apology. Goodbye." I was about to slam the door, but he wouldn't give up so simply. "Ethan. Wait. Are you not going to let me explain?" "Me. Not really. An explanation could have been useful back then, before everyone I cared about turned away from me. But what good will it do now?" "Ethan. All right, you have a point. But I'd still like to apologize to Chloe. Can you provide me her contact information?" My response: "I could, but I'm not going to." "Ethan. Come on, Alex. I just want to apologize to her." "Me. I'll tell her you're attempting to contact out. If she wishes to talk, she will contact you directly, but you should keep away from her." That was all I wanted to say, so I slammed the door and went away. Through the door, I heard him cry, "Unblock your mother? She wants to speak to you." I didn't respond. Instead, I went straight to the living room, where Olivia was waiting. I told her everything that had just transpired, and we both agreed that the first step should be to phone Chloe. If anybody needed to know about Ethan's reappearance, it was her. When I called, Chloe was astonished, and she made it obvious that she didn't want Ethan to receive her contact information, which I assured her I would never give him. It took me a few days to determine what to do about my mother. Finally, I cleared her phone number and texted her a simple message. "Heard you wanted to talk?" A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. I let it ring and texted back, "Text only, no calls." She replied quickly, "Mom. We know you spoke with Ethan. We want you to come home." Me. "I am at home." "Mom. You understand what I mean. We'd like to apologize and welcome you back to the family." Me. "I accept your apology. I am staying here. Your mother. We just want to make things right." Me. "I will think about it. Goodbye." I realize it probably sounded callous, but when the people you care about throw you away like garbage, it changes you. Right now, I'm not ready to let my old life interfere with the life I've created here. Olivia, Chloe, her fiancé, and I are all on the same page about this. For the time being, nothing has changed. We've agreed to keep the past firmly in the past. We'll talk about it again after Chloe's wedding, but for now, remaining out of contact feels like the safest option. Wedding vibes, the truth is out. Chloe's wedding was amazing. A day full of joy and love that she absolutely deserved, after everything she's been through. After some long conversations, I decided to return to my hometown to meet with my family. It wasn't an easy decision, but I felt that I needed to close this chapter, one way or another. I requested that Chloe's parents and Ethan attend the wedding. I also noticed a familiar bridesmaid sitting alone, looking uneasy and withdrawn. I couldn't pinpoint why I thought she was significant until later when I arrived at the meeting. When I arrived at the meeting, my mother immediately tried to hug me, but I gently stopped her and kept a safe distance. Before anyone could say anything, I took out my phone, turned it on the speakerphone, and placed it in my shirt pocket. "Chloe's on the line," I stated. "She's listening to everything, but her microphone is muted. If she wishes to speak, she will unmute. If she decides she is finished with this talk, she will disconnect. It is entirely her decision. Chloe's father frowned. Why isn't she here herself? I looked him directly in the eyes and said, because she informed me last week that she doesn't feel safe after what occurred 5 years ago. Could you blame her? Ethan didn't just punch me that day. He also smacked Chloe. And didn't even give her the opportunity to defend herself. Hearing that, Ethan's face became pale, and a murmur of concern swept through the room. Yet, they eventually began to describe what had happened. 2 years after the scandal, Ethan married Megan, the bridesmaid I had noticed at the wedding. Their marriage was rocky from the start, with constant arguments. During one of those fights, about 6 months ago, Megan slipped up and admitted that she had sabotaged Chloe's relationship with Ethan, only to hear about it throughout their marriage. Megan stated that she was the one who told Ethan that Chloe was having an affair with me. She claimed to have observed it but couldn't provide any evidence, and she made it all up to pull them apart. When Ethan brought this accusation to the family, everyone believed him without question. They assumed he wouldn't ruin his own wedding unless he had a good reason, and they just took Megan's word as gospel. They didn't stop to talk to me or Chloe, nor did they give us a chance to explain or defend ourselves. Now that the truth had been revealed, they wanted to apologize, make things right, and welcome us back into their lives. I sat there for a moment, contemplating what I just heard, before turning to Megan. Let me get things straight. You wanted to be with Ethan so badly that you damaged Chloe's life to get her out of the way. You built your fleeting happiness on lies, on betraying those who trusted you. Was I just collateral damage? How does it feel to know that all you built was based on someone else's pain? Next, I looked at Ethan. We've grown up together, guy. Chloe, you and I felt like family even before we became one. But instead of approaching us, you simply believed her falsehoods and tore our lives apart. How could you do that? Finally, I addressed Chloe's parents and my own. To both of you, I will pose the same question. You reared us. I believed you were aware of our identities. But when the initial complaint was leveled, you didn't even engage in a civil conversation. You did not believe we were worth the opportunity to defend ourselves. You basically assumed the worst and brushed us aside. How could you do it? Nobody said anything. They just sat there in silence. Following a lengthy pause, I continued. I know where I stand with all of you now. You made it apparent 5 years ago that you did not believe I was worth it. No phone call, no talk. You showed me my spot, but it isn't here. I cannot speak for Chloe. She will make her own decision on what happens next. If she accepts your apologies, she will contact you. But do not hold your breath. As for me, I'm finished. I'm returning to my true house, which I created after you all abandoned me. And, while I'm relieved to finally know what occurred, all of this could have been avoided if anyone here had exercised common sense 5 years ago. Maybe this will still feel like home. I walked out, blocked their phones again, and contacted Chloe to make sure she hadn't missed anything crucial. We both decided that this was the end of the line, and we'd keep out of communication with everyone involved. The next morning, as I drove out of town, I had a sense of closure. This would be the last time I ever came back here. My future was waiting for me back home, with Olivia. I already had the ring, and it was finally time to ask her to marry me. Engagement goals. A new beginning. And that was how my life turned a new page. After all the pain and loss, I found true happiness. I learned that family isn't always blood, but the people who love and accept you unconditionally. I learned that the truth always wins, even if it takes a long time. And I learned that no matter what life throws at you, you can always stand up and build a better life. My sister excluded me from her bachelorette party, then asked me to babysit. I said no, but she still dumped her kids at my door and left. You won't believe this shout, all right? Basically, I was not invited to my sister's bachelorette party since it was for close friends only. However, she later requested me to watch her children instead. I mean, are you serious? I was nice enough to raise her children for free, but I couldn't even join in on the fun. The arrogance, to be honest. I made the decision to show her the truth. It was usually that way while I was growing up. By the way, my sister is Tiffany, and my name is Violet. Little things at the beginning. I had to share my lunch if she didn't bring it to school. I was the one who stayed up late to help her do any schoolwork that was due the following day. It was a major issue and caused problems in my home when she would have tantrums over things, and my parents would encourage me to be the bigger person and let it go. Nothing altered as we grew older. I somehow ended up being Tiffany's unofficial babysitter for her 2 young children. If I didn't have anything else to do, she would drop them off without much notice. Too bad if I had plans. I could find time if I was busy. It seems like it has been going on forever. I endured it for years. Then she became engaged. I had come to terms with the fact that I would most likely be asked to do a ton of things for her wedding. She would count on me to run errands, go dress shopping, assist with planning, and, of course, keep the kids whenever she needed me. I had anticipated all of that. The bachelorette party scenario was something I wasn't expecting. I was looking through Instagram one day when I came across a post from a buddy of ours. A big group of women were celebrating and chatting about how delighted they were as it counted down to Tiffany's bachelorette vacation. Confused, I gazed at my screen. Regarding this excursion, I had not heard anything. I figured I would hear about it shortly and it was just being arranged. A couple of days went by, no invitation, not a word about it. I therefore chose to ask Tiffany, Hey, are you doing a bachelorette trip? Tiffany? Oh yeah, it's just going to be a small group, only my closest friends. Best friends? Her only sister was me? Her bridal party was supposed to have included me. My response, oh, I just assumed I'd be invited. Tiffany, I didn't think you'd be into it. We're having a fun girls' weekend. I didn't want you to feel out of place. Not at home? Even so, what did that mean? As soon as she saw my expression, she said, Violet, it's nothing personal. I just want a certain vibe, I pretended to understand and nodded, but I was hurting on the inside. It hurt that she didn't even think about inviting me, even though I didn't want to go on their trip enough to beg. I convinced myself it wasn't a huge problem and swallowed it down. She was free to throw her party. I had no intention of making a fuss over it. I assumed that would be the last of it. I was mistaken. Tiffany, who never calls unless she needs something, called me 2 days before the trip. I answered, already figuring out where this was headed. Tiffany. Hey, so I have a huge favor to ask. I remained silent as I waited. Tiffany. This weekend, I need you to watch the kids. I'm in serious trouble because our sitter just canceled. She told me that her vacation was just for close friends, so I almost laughed, but now she was expecting me to drop everything and watch the kids so she could go, so I let her continue. Tiffany. It would help me so much. You know how hard it is to find a sitter at the last minute, and I know you love spending time with them. The guilt trip was there. I wanted to say no right away, but then I had an idea, so I told her I would get back to her later instead of answering her right away, and she appeared relieved. Tiffany. Sis, thank you. I was sure I could rely on you. I went online and made a last-minute reservation for a beachfront resort after hanging up without making any commitments. Payback time, BTech. Tiffany called again the night before she was scheduled to depart. Tiffany said, so we're good for tomorrow, right? I inhaled deeply and spoke in an informal tone. Oh, I forgot to text you. I actually booked a trip for myself this weekend. I won't be around to babysit. Quiet. Tiffany. Wait, what? What do you mean you booked a trip? You never go anywhere? I disregarded the remark. Yeah, I figured it was time to do something fun for myself. Hope you figure things out. She began to splutter. Tiffany. But wait. What? You can't just leave. What am I supposed to do with the kids? Not sure. Maybe ask one of your close friends? As if I had slapped her, she gasped. Tiffany. Oh my God, you're being so petty right now. I gave a shrug. Not trying to be, just prioritizing myself, like you did before. I told her I had to leave before she could continue. After that, I packed my bags, switched off my phone's notifications, and went to bed. I woke up early the following morning, packed my belongings, and headed out. My phone began to explode with voicemails, missed calls, and angry texts as I was on the beach sipping champagne and listening to the waves. The initial one. Tiffany? Where are you? I'm at your house. The following. You said you'd help me, said Tiffany. Then Janice, my mother, called. I let the voicemail go, then she called repeatedly. At last, I responded. Mother. Violet, Tiffany is outside your house with the kids. What is going on? I sipped my beverage. My response. I told her I wouldn't be home. I have my own plans this weekend. Mama. Wait, so she expected you to babysit? Yep. Without even asking me first. Quiet. Then. Mom. I see. I didn't get a shout from her. She didn't point out my selfishness to me. She also sounded, for the first time in her life, weary of Tiffany's actions. That's wonderful to hear. My phone is still vibrating on the table as I sit by the ocean and watch the sunset. Tiffany is still yelling and calling me non-stop outside my house. I'm not sure if I should respond. After I finish my drink, perhaps. After a few minutes of silence, my phone began to ring again, but this time it wasn't Tiffany, it was my dad, Richard. My dad never calls unless something serious is happening. I sighed, picked it up and braced myself. I sat there watching the waves roll in, feeling the warm breeze on my face. The sound of the ocean drowned out the buzzing of my phone, but I could still see the notifications piling up. "Where are you?" asked Dad. I could detect the sharpness in his tone, even though his voice was quiet. "Me. On the shore. Taking a rest. Dad. Tiffany and the children are crying in front of your house. She claims that you left them behind." I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. "Me. I didn't leave anyone behind. I never consented to be a babysitter. Dad. She had plans this weekend, as you are aware. She required your assistance. I was expected to constantly step up, no matter what, and there it was, the standard speech. Me. I was not invited on her trip. I was close enough to be her free babysitter, but she didn't think I was close enough to be there. Not now." Dad was silent for a while. "Father. I understand that you're upset, but family takes care of each other." I gave a little chuckle. "Me. Is Tiffany looking after me? Has she ever? Or am I simply supposed to give up everything for her at any time?" More silence, followed by an unexpected development. "Father. Your mother and I are on our way to get the kids." I straightened my posture in my chair. "Me. You're heading to Tiffany's house? Hold on. No, your house," said Dad. After leaving the children there, she departed. Anger began to slowly swell in my breast. Tiffany had left her children outside my house, thinking that someone, anybody, would watch them. She had not made other plans or recruited another babysitter, so she simply left them there and went. I took another sip of my drink while clenching my jaw. "Me. How long ago?" "Dad. Roughly 20 minutes, I'm already halfway there with your mom." She truly believed that I would give in, that I would go home in a panic and accept responsibility like I always did, but this time, I let out a sharp breath. "Me. All okay. Tell me when you get them." After hanging up, I tried to calm myself by staring out at the water and thinking about how horrible it was for the kids, who didn't deserve this and didn't know their mother was using them as pawns in some absurd guilt trip. I thought about calling Tiffany, but I knew what she would say. She would play the victim, turn this around on me, and tell everyone that I was the selfish, cruel sister who made her leave her kids on a doorstep because she had no other option. It wasn't worth it. My dad texted me 15 minutes later, saying, "Dad, we have them." I released a breath I didn't know I was holding, and then he contacted me again, saying, "Dad, we're taking them to our house." My mom, Janice, had always found ways to make things better for Tiffany, but something about this had pushed her over the edge. "Your mother is furious." That made me stop. Mom was furious. That was new. Before I could give it much thought, another message arrived, this time from Tiffany. "How could you do that to me?" asked Tiffany. I rolled my eyes and continued to read, but now I had the problem. Tiffany replied, "You know I had nowhere else to go." "What else was I supposed to do?" asked Tiffany. "Tiffany, you really are making a big deal out of a trip. You're self-centered and petty." And last, the message. "You're dead to me," said Tiffany. This wasn't over yet, but I wasn't going to let her spoil my weekend, so I locked my phone and put it away after staring at the screen for a moment. As I reclined on my lounge chair, I allowed Tiffany's irate text to remain unread. Everything was bathed in rich orange and gold hues as the sun descended over the ocean. The waves were calm, steady, and rhythmic. Something bothered me even though I should have been at ease. Tiffany wasn't one to take things lightly. She was always adept at assigning blame and manipulating circumstances to her advantage, and this was the kind of thing she would cling to for years. I let out a sigh, sipped my drink slowly, then picked up my phone once more. 42 messages remain unread. Some from my mother, most from Tiffany. I started by quickly reading Mom's most recent text. "Mother. We have the kids." "Mother. Tiffany isn't answering our calls." "Mama. Call me when you can." I scowled. Why wasn't Tiffany responding to them? She kept sending me texts, but was she ignoring them? That was nonsensical. After a moment of hesitation, I clicked on her name. The texts were just what I had anticipated. Tiffany said, "I hope you're happy you ruined everything." Tiffany said, You're so bitter it's disgusting. Tiffany said, you embarrassed me in front of everyone. Tiffany said, I hope you're enjoying yourself while I'm falling apart. Nothing fresh. The standard guilt tripping. A new message appeared just as I was ready to put my phone away once more. Tiffany said, I told my friends what you did. They all agree you're an awful sister. No wonder you don't have many close friends. I gave a quick breath. It was there. Throughout my entire life, I had been the trustworthy, responsible, and good sibling. I had to be the bigger person, and Tiffany was used to that. She had to make me the bad guy now that I wasn't going out of my way for her. I put my phone away and locked it. Allow her to provide her version. I didn't give a damn. I believed I didn't, anyhow. My phone buzzed once more about an hour later, right as I was wrapping up supper at the resort's outdoor eatery. I let out a sigh, anticipating more irate texts. It wasn't Tiffany, though. My neighbor was the one. Your neighbor. Hey, are you home? There's someone banging on your front door. I felt sick to my stomach. I instantly typed back. Who is it? I exclaimed. Your neighbor. I think it's Tiffany. She's yelling your name. She was, of course. I tightened my jaw. Tiffany was at my house, most likely prepared to yell at me face to face, after realizing that our parents wouldn't give in as they normally did. Me. I'm not in the city. Neighbor. She is unhappy about that, yes. You want me to do what? I inhaled deeply. Ignore her, I say. She's waking up the entire street, says the neighbor. Rachel was obviously dramatic, but this was something different. What was she trying to do, make a scene and get me to go home quickly? If that was her goal, it wouldn't work, so I rubbed my temples. After 15 minutes, my dad sent me another SMS. Dad. Tiffany just arrived at our house and is requesting that the children return. I scowled since it didn't make sense that she had left them there, gone away, and disregarded their calls before demanding their return. Next, another text. Something's wrong, Dad? She's acting weird. Tiffany was a lot of things, but she wasn't reckless with her children. She was entitled and manipulative, but she was also strategic. If she abandoned them, it was to make a point, but now that she was going back, something wasn't right. My phone then buzzed once more, this time with a message from my neighbor. Tiffany left her neighbor, but about 5 minutes later, a man came looking for her. My stomach turned over. What guy am I? The tall, somewhat rough-looking neighbor knocked a few times, glanced around, and then walked away. Tiffany only surrounded herself with individuals who could help her in some manner. She didn't date guys like that. Who is this person and why was he looking for her? I gazed at my phone, feeling my pulse quicken up. I went back to Tiffany's previous message, which read, Tiffany, I hope you're having fun while I'm falling apart. Tiffany was erratic, but this time she had gone from angry to desperate in a matter of hours. She had abandoned her children, then demanded their return, and now some random guy was showing up at my house looking for her. I had thought she was just being dramatic, but now I wasn't sure, and I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something wasn't right. My instinct told me that I couldn't ignore this, so I contacted Tiffany, something I hadn't done in years, despite my best efforts to ignore it and enjoy my weekend. She didn't respond. Voicemail when I tried again. I debated while staring at my phone, and then I called my dad, who answered right away. Me. She just left you, Dad. What took place? Dad. Sigh. She suddenly appeared and demanded that the children be returned. Until she clarified the situation, your mother told her no. Tiffany snapped. Yelling, sobbing, and declaring our collective opposition to her. Me. Did she explain her initial reason for leaving them? Dad. Not at all. However, she insisted that she needed to make a change before it was too late. I clenched my fingers around my phone. Me. Did she mention the issue she needed to resolve? Dad. No, she also forbade me from calling the police. She claimed to be in control of it. I checked the time, and it was late, but I had a bad feeling this wasn't finished, and I was right. That didn't seem like Tiffany, who always made sure others saw her as the victim and would call the police if she had any reason to do so. My mom called at around 2 in the morning, and I answered right away when I heard my phone vibrate noisily on the nightstand. Me. What's the matter? Mom. Tiffany is back at our place, and that individual is as well. I leapt from my bed. Me. What? Did he follow her there? Mom. Yes. Outside, they are arguing. I quickly put on my clothes, picked up my bag, and hurried to leave the resort. Me. Make a police call. Mom. Tiffany keeps warning us not to, but your father did it already. I was already in the vehicle and driving quickly on the freeway. My response, I'm coming home. Mom. What? Don't, please? I had already hung up though, since I needed to see for myself that Tiffany had pulled our entire family into whatever problem she was in. One of the officers was standing between them, attempting to defuse the situation, and I parked and got out, feeling my heart pound in my chest. By the time I pulled up to our parents' house, 2 police cars were outside, and Tiffany was sobbing hysterically on the front porch while the man, whom I could now see clearly, was pacing on the sidewalk and shouting something at her. He was tall, rough-looking, and angry, and I didn't recognize him. Mom hurried over when she first seen me. Mom. You weren't supposed to arrive. Too late, I said. I glanced at the man, then at Tiffany. Me. Who's that? Mom gave a headshake. Parents. We don't know. I looked at Tiffany. Me. Who's that, Tiffany? Tiffany wouldn't give me a look. Instead, the man turned to face me. Man. You're the sister, aren't you? The one who abandoned her. I was taken aback and retreated. Me. Pardon me. Mocking voice of a man. I need a weekend to myself. I don't have time to help my own sister. My blood froze. Me. Did you mention me to him, Tiffany? The man chuckled, but Tiffany refused to look at me. Man. She did, of course. She put the responsibility on you. Said that she was stranded in this dilemma because of you. I tightened my jaw. What mess? I asked myself. Man. The money. The ground seemed to have been torn out from under me. Me. How much money? The man snorted. Mail. The $10,000 she owes me. My heart ceased, and I looked at Tiffany. My response. Tell me he's lying. Tiffany's eyes were bloodshot and her face was pallid when she finally looked up. Tiffany. She whispered. For the wedding, I needed the money. I gazed at her. Me. You took out a loan from him? Why? She shook her head and wiped her cheeks. Tiffany said, I thought I could pay it back before he came looking. The man chuckled once again. Guy. Yeah, well, you thought wrong. I looked back at him. So you're a loan shark? I asked. Male. I prefer businessman. I took a deep breath. Me. What did you think? Would you get paid more quickly if you came here and caused a scene? He gave a shrug. Man. I couldn't get her to return my calls. Her excuses ran out, so here we are. I gave Tiffany another glance. Me. You left the kids in my house for what reason? Tiffany sobbed while covering her face. According to Tiffany, I didn't want them to be around if things got bad. I shut my eyes. She had taken advantage of me, tried to have me watch her children so she could deal with a loan shark behind my back, and then abandoned them anyway. She had put us all in danger because she didn't want to be held accountable for her own behavior. I was done. After obtaining statements, the police ultimately escorted the man away. Our parents weren't amenable to Tiffany's attempts at apology. Father. You put your kids in danger, Tiffany? Mama. You put all of us in danger. Your mother. And you tried to blame your sister for your mistake. Tiffany continued to cry, stating that she was at a loss for what to do. Silently, I stood there. I had no feelings. I had lost my anger. I wasn't shocked at all. I was simply worn out. My response? Figured it out, Tiffany. Her eyes were big as she gazed up at me. You're just going to walk away? Asked Tiffany. Me. Yes. I didn't feel compelled to make things right for her for the first time in my life. This mess was her fault. It would need to be cleaned by her. I turned, made my way back to my vehicle, and departed. For weeks Tiffany and I didn't communicate. Later, I learned that in order to pay off the debt, my parents made her sell some of her wedding pleasures. Although it was far smaller than she had initially intended, the wedding still took place. The bridal party did not include me. They didn't even invite me. And to be honest, I didn't mind that. I prioritized myself for the first time in my life. Kicked out for refusing the family business, I lived in my car, built software for small businesses, and turned it into my own company. What do you want to do? The sound of my father's voice shook the designer light fittings in our immaculate suburban kitchen. His face turned to a frightening purple, already red from his third scotch of the evening. I repeated, attempting to sound steady, that I want to launch a software company. I've created a prototype already. This platform is beneficial to small enterprises. He slammed his glass flat and said, absolutely not. We didn't pay for your Stanford degree so you could waste your life on some pipe dream. You're joining the family business? End of discussion. I looked to my mom for encouragement. She remained motionless at our marble island, keeping her customary cautious distance from confrontation. It gleamed on her wrist, the diamond tennis bracelet I'd given her for Christmas, purchased with my earnings from covert freelance coding assignments. Mom, I attempted. You've seen how many small businesses are struggling with digital transformation. My platform could really help. She groaned and looked at her manicure. Ethan, she said. Your father's right. This tech obsession of yours, it's not practical. Sterling Enterprises needs you. The company's been in the family for 3 generations. In reality, they meant that our family's industrial supply company, Sterling Enterprises, was failing. They needed my programming expertise to update their antiquated systems so they could compete in a market that was digitizing quickly. But my aspirations were loftier. When I said, I'm not asking for money, I have savings, I just need some time. My dad said, I'll laugh. You want time to play with computers while real businesses are at stake? While your sister is already making partner at her law firm? Yes, Claire, my ideal elder sister. The benchmark by which all of my shortcomings were evaluated was Harvard Law, the youngest partner in her firm's history, and she was married to a physician. I insisted, this isn't playing. I've already got interest from potential clients. Small businesses need affordable software solutions, and the big tech companies aren't serving them. My platform was chilled by my father. Just inches from my head, the glass broke against the wall. My father yelled, enough, as liquor trickled down the pricey wall covering. You have a choice, join Sterling Enterprises on Monday or get out. See how long you last without our support. Despite flinching at the sound, my mother remained silent. She didn't. I glanced at both of them, my mother averting my gaze, my father shaking with anger. The choice I made would alter everything. Remarkably composed, I got up and said, I choose out. What, I'm leaving? Good luck modernizing Sterling Enterprises without me. You ungrateful. I was on my way upstairs when my father began to approach me. This was a moment I had anticipated. Essentials like a laptop, a portable hard drive, and 2 changes of clothes were already in my backpack. I had a safety deposit box where I kept my vital paperwork. My parents couldn't access the account where I kept the majority of my savings. My dad yelled up the stairs, you have an hour? Then I want you out of this house. I retrieved my favorite hoodie, my emergency pack, and a final glance at my childhood bedroom. My trophies from coding competitions, science fair prizes, and the framed article about the high school software I created that attracted Stanford's notice were still on the wall. It buzzed on my phone. Finn, my best friend, texted me. Operation Escape still on? Happening now, I responded by typing. Plan B initiated. When I initially made the decision to follow my company goals, Finn and I had simulated this situation months prior. I could stay in his tiny flat above his family's eatery until I was able to support myself. My mother eventually spoke as I was about to leave. Ethan, please be reasonable. Your father only wants what's best. No, I interrupted her. He wants what's best for Sterling Enterprises. There's a difference. I left without turning around. It felt unreal the first night in my automobile. I parked on a quiet street 2 blocks away from my parents' house, far enough away that they wouldn't notice me but close enough to keep a solid connection to their fast Wi-Fi network, which I had set up and secured myself. The familiar rhythm of keyboards drowned out the voice in my head that told me I was making a big mistake as I continued to code on my laptop, which shone in the darkness. When Finn handed me food, he remarked, "You sure about this? His mother's incredible pad thai. My couch is still available." I shook my head and showed him my workplace, which included a laptop, a power bank for emergencies, and a mobile hotspot for backup internet. I need to stay mobile for now. Can't risk them finding me and trying to force me back. He looked at my computer screen. What exactly are you building? I displayed the interface of my prototype. I call it Smart Start. It's an all-in-one digital platform for small businesses. Point of sale, inventory management, customer relationships, online presence, everything they need to compete in today's market, but simplified and affordable, like what your dad's company needs. Similar, but designed for smaller businesses that can't afford enterprise solutions. I reflected on all the neighborhood stores I had witnessed struggle and fail due to their inability to adapt to the digital revolution. There's a huge market being ignored by big tech. Finn gave a slow nod. A cash register from the 1990s and paper order tickets were still in use at his family's eatery. How long until it's ready? Basic version, 2 months. I've got most of the core functions working. Just need to polish the interface and add some features. I kept from him the fact that I was also surreptitiously recording every flaw in Sterling Enterprises systems, including every security flaw, inefficiency, and lost chance for technological advancement. I was creating it because I knew they would need it someday, not because I was spiteful. They simply weren't aware of it yet. Life fell into an odd pattern. I would work from several coffee shops over the day, purchasing just enough to warrant using their Wi-Fi and space. I would park close to my parents' house at night and utilize their fast internet to upload code and execute intricate tests. Coffee, protein bars, and leftovers from Finn's family were my main sources of nutrition. I learned which parking lots were safe to sleep in and which ones to avoid, and I took a shower at a cheap gym membership. Although uncomfortable, it served a useful purpose. I could devote all of my attention to creating Smart Start if there were no outside distractions, no incessant criticism from my father, and no passive disappointment from my mother. My sister Claire attempted to step in one weekend. "This is ridiculous, Ethan," she said after finding me at the coffee shop where I usually go. "You're living in your car to prove what? That you can be as stubborn as Dad?" I continued to code without looking up. "I'm building something important. You're throwing away a guaranteed future with the family business." I stated plainly. "The family business is dying. Dad's too proud to admit it. But their systems are ancient. Their processes are inefficient. And their competitors are eating them alive. Then help fix it," I said, finally looking her in the eye. "That's exactly what I'm doing, just not the way they want." She put a big envelope on my table before departing in frustration. $5,000 in cash was found inside, along with the words, "Don't be an idiot. Come home." I upgraded my coding tools and purchased a better laptop with the money. In the second month, the breakthrough occurred. A local bookshop, a family-run hardware store, and a developing food truck company were among the small businesses who approached me about beta testing Smart Start. They were all having trouble with the same issues that my platform was intended to address. The owner of the bookstore responded, "This is exactly what we need." Following my demonstration of the inventory management system. "QuickBooks is too complicated, and the custom solutions are too expensive. How much would this cost?" I gave her a price that made her smile. It was purposefully less than the going rate in order to encourage word of mouth. I had clients that were paying by the third month. Little sums, but consistent revenue. Enough to rent a little studio apartment, but I didn't include it in the lease so my parents wouldn't find out. Then came the call that made all the difference. The authoritative, business-like voice said, "Is this Ethan Sterling?" "Yes, this is." "Owen Grant from Zenith Ventures. We've been hearing interesting things about your Smart Start platform." My heart stopped beating. One of the nation's most prominent early-stage investors was Zenith Ventures. One of our portfolio companies mentioned your solution. Said, "It's exactly what the small business market needs. Would you be interested in discussing potential investment?" I tightened my hold on my phone as I recalled all the evenings I spent coding in my car, the meals I skipped to gain server time, and the uncertainties and anxieties I had set aside in order to follow this goal. "Yes," I said. "I would definitely be interested." At the time, I had no idea that this talk would start a series of events that would not only confirm my vision but also confront my family's financial failures in a way that neither of us could have anticipated. My father would have approved of the Zenith Ventures office, which was located on the top level of a shiny downtown tower. I tried not to look like someone who had been living in his van 2 months prior, rearranged my one nice suit, and purchased used items for investor meetings. Owen Grant had the easy assurance of someone who had made his wealth in the first boom, and he was younger than I had anticipated, possibly in his early 40s. "Walk me through it again," he urged, pointing to the enormous screen in the conference room that was showing my Smart Start demonstration. I launched the user interface, which had grown as recognizable as my own image. Small businesses are drowning in digital complexity. They need e-commerce, inventory management, customer relationship tools, but existing solutions are either too expensive, too complicated, or too limited. The point of sale, inventory management, customer communications, and even basic analytics were all connected and easy enough for anyone to use, and I showed how a small business owner could set up their complete digital presence in less than an hour. "And this scales?" was Owen's full question. "The architecture is cloud-based, modular. We can add features as businesses grow, integrate with other platforms, but the core stays simple." Slowly, he nodded. "And your current users?" 28 paying customers, all from word of mouth, 0 churn rate. Average user engagement is 4 hours daily. "That's impressive." He displayed a second screen. "My company's incorporation documents. Innovative Solutions LLC, registered 6 months ago? Yes. All self-funded so far. He looked closely at me. You're Charles Sterling's son. My heart skipped a beat. You know my father? He looked contemplative as he said, Sterling Enterprises was one of my first investments back in the day, before your father bought out the minority shareholders. They're having trouble adapting to digital markets, I hear. I maintained a neutral expression. I wouldn't know. I'm not involved with Sterling Enterprises. He tapped his iPad, and a fresh document showed up on the screen. Interesting. We'd like to offer you seed funding, $2 million for a 20% stake. I made an effort to hide my trembling hands. $2 million was more money than I ever thought I would have. Owen went on. There's one condition. We want you to expand your focus. Small businesses are good, but mid-sized enterprises need these solutions too. Companies like, say, Sterling Enterprises. And there it was. The trap I dreaded and had been anticipating. You want me to target my family's business? He gave a small smile. I want you to target a market segment that desperately needs modernization. The fact that your father's company might benefit is incidental. I reflected on the numerous evenings I had parked outside my folks' house, utilizing their Wi-Fi to construct something they rejected. Regarding my mother's quiet and my father's fury. About the small enterprises that Smart Start has already helped flourish. I'll need full control of the company's direction, I replied. No interference with the core mission. He slid a folder over the table and said, Of course. Have your lawyers review it. But Ethan, don't wait too long. This market won't stay open forever. 3 days later, after going over every detail with my sister Claire, who was still a better lawyer than she realized, I signed the contract. You're really doing this, she remarked as she returned the documents with the annotations. Going directly against Dad's business? I'm building something that could save his business, I replied. If he's willing to see it. She gave a headshake. You know he won't, not coming from you. Of course, she was correct, but I also had a strategy. Scaling up over the next 6 months was a blur. I would have given my mother a heart attack if I had rented actual office space in a converted warehouse. Hired salespeople, designers, and developers. When Finn took over as head of customer success, his knowledge of small business owners proved to be quite helpful. Smart Start expanded more quickly than Owen had anticipated. Business circles began to hear about the platform that truly lived up to the hype. From dozens to hundreds to thousands, our user base grew rapidly. Finally, the tech press took notice of us, and then came the piece that made all the difference. Digital David versus Goliath, How Smart Start is Disrupting Enterprise Software. The article commended our ability to assist small firms compete with larger corporations, our creativity, and our emphasis on user experience. The fact that I was Charles Sterling's estranged son was also mentioned, almost as an afterthought. Minutes after the piece went up, my phone rang. Claire. She said. Dad's furious. Without introducing herself. He's calling an emergency board meeting. Why? Smart Start isn't competing with Sterling Enterprises. No, but 3 of their biggest customers just announced they're switching to your platform. Stunned, I reclined. I hadn't observed that mid-sized organizations were beginning to use Smart Start because we've been so focused on tiny enterprises. There's more, insisted Claire. Their latest quarterly numbers, they're bad. Ethan, really bad. The board is talking about forcing Dad out if he doesn't modernize their systems. I retrieved the public financial information for Sterling Enterprises. The figures were worse than I had anticipated. Within 6 months, their stock had fallen 40%. The rate of customer attrition was increasing. They were practically on the verge of going bankrupt due to their antiquated software systems. They need help, I muttered aloud. They need you, she said. But you know Dad will never admit it. Owen Grant's remarks regarding focusing on mid-sized businesses and the several elements we included in Smart Start that may help businesses like Sterling Enterprises were on my mind. Perhaps, I replied softly, they don't have to recognize me. I called an emergency team meeting that evening. I revealed the prototype I had been working on covertly, a new division aimed at larger companies that was based on the Smart Start architecture but had extra capabilities for intricate operations. We're launching enterprise solutions, I said. Finn scowled. I thought we were staying focused on small business. We are. But there's a whole segment of mid-sized companies being crushed between small business agility and big corporation resources. They need what we've built. I neglected to mention that every feature in Enterprise Solutions was created especially to address the issues facing Sterling Enterprises. that I had devoted months to examining their shortcomings and developing fixes for problems they were unaware they had yet. For weeks, the team worked nonstop. We introduced enterprise solutions under a different name through a subsidiary that was difficult to link to me. Similar to Sterling Enterprises, the marketing campaign focused on well-established enterprises who were having difficulty embracing digital change. We waited after that. It took very little time. Days after our launch, the new Chief Technology Officer of Sterling Enterprises, who had been hired in a panic following their most recent system failure, contacted us. The location of the meeting was their headquarters. I watched over a secure video link while my father and his board were shown enterprise solutions by our sales team, who were specifically selected to be unrelated to me. I witnessed his realization that this was precisely what they required. Saw him struggle to acknowledge it. Observed the enthusiastic inquiries from the board members regarding cost and implementation. Our sales lead clarified, the investment would be significant but the potential return. My father cut me off, saying, "We'll need to see other options." An elderly board member, Jonathan, leaned forward. "We've seen 12 presentations in 2 months. This is the only solution that actually addresses our specific needs, and their track record, impressive results with similar companies." Another board member added their voice. "My cousin's manufacturing business switched to their system last quarter. Saw immediate improvements." I saw the expression on my father's face as he knew he was losing the battle. Change was what the board desired. Their clients insisted on it. Their best chance of surviving was with enterprise solutions. "Fine," he snarled. "Start the procurement process." With an odd sense of emptiness, I shut down the video feed. I had succeeded. Produced just what was required by Sterling Enterprises. Confirmed that my vision was correct. Why, therefore, didn't it seem like a win? When Claire contacted again 3 days later, the response was received. She said, "Dad's drinking," without introducing herself. Really drinking? Mom's talking about separation. Not because of enterprise solutions, but because he is aware of his failure. My gut nodded. He had to go pleading with outsiders for assistance because the business was collapsing. She hesitated. "He keeps saying he should have listened to you." I reflected on all the decisions that had brought us to this point as I gazed out my office window at the metropolitan skyline. My pride, my father's intransigence, and the barriers of silence we established between us. What if, I thought to myself, there was a way to save both the company and his pride? How? "I have an idea, but I'll need your help." The board meeting of Sterling Enterprises was set for 9 a.m. Thursday. I watched familiar faces stream into their offices as I waited in my car outside the exact location where I had parked to access their Wi-Fi. Last to arrive was my father, who appeared older than I had recalled. His suit, which was usually spotless, was a little rumpled. His stride was less assured than the one I had grown up admiring. I tapped my phone and asked, "Everything ready?" "All set," the woman said. "The board members are prepped. Owen Grant just arrived, and Mom's in position, though she's still not sure about this." I changed my tie. It was still not the brand my father would pick, but it was a designer now. "It has to be today. The Enterprise Solutions contract needs board approval by the end of the week." "Good luck," replied Claire quietly. "Try not to enjoy this too much." Despite my nervousness, I grinned. She was too familiar with me. When I walked in, the security guard looked twice. I had been hauled away the last time I was here following another argument about entering the family business. I was back on my terms now. As I walked in, the boardroom became quiet. My dad's expression quickly changed from astonished to irate to perplexed. Owen Grant, who was seated close to the head of the table, simply nodded as though he had anticipated my arrival. My dad yelled, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to discuss the Enterprise Solutions contract," I remarked coolly as I set my laptop down on the table. "This is a closed board meeting. Security?" "Actually," Owen replied softly, "Mr. Sterling is here at my request. As the majority investor in Enterprise Solutions, I believe his input is crucial to this discussion." My dad's face turned white. "You what?" My laptop displayed a similar UI when I plugged it in, but not Enterprise Solutions. I chose to show them the original Smart Start dashboard instead, which had my very first designs and notes. "I started building this the day you kicked me out," I said, "using your Wi-Fi. Actually, since I was living in my car at the time." The members of the board shuffled uneasily. My mom eventually turned to face me as she sat calmly in her typical corner seat. I went on. Smart Start grew faster than anyone expected. Small businesses loved it because it solved real problems simply and affordably, but I knew larger companies needed similar solutions. I moved to the interface for enterprise solutions. Every feature in this system was designed specifically to address Sterling Enterprise's challenges. The inventory management, the customer tracking, the integration capabilities, all built based on intimate knowledge of what this company needs. My father's voice was trembling with anger as he said, "You've been spying on us." "No," I replied. "I've been trying to save your company. The same company you wanted me to join, but only on your terms." Owen Grant cleared his throat. "The board has reviewed Mr. Sterling's proposal. Enterprise Solutions isn't just a software platform. It's a potential merger opportunity." My dad's head jerked up. "Merger?" I displayed the comprehensive merger proposal that I had been working on for weeks. "Smart Start Technology would acquire a controlling interest in Sterling Enterprises," I said. "But the Sterling name stays. The legacy business continues, enhanced by modern technology, and the current CEO transitions to Chairman Emeritus, focusing on strategic partnerships rather than day-to-day operations." There was no sound in the room. My dad whispered, "You want to buy my company?" I clarified, "I want to save it. Transform it into something that honors its history while embracing the future, but it has to happen now, before the market completely passes you by." It was my mother who talked first. "Charles, listen to him." Startled, he turned to face her. She had never raised her voice in 30 years of board meetings. "I've seen what Ethan built," she added. "What he sacrificed to build it. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about family." "Family." He laughed loudly. "He abandoned the family business." "No," I muttered. "I found a different way to support it. Every feature, every innovation in enterprise solutions was designed with Sterling Enterprises in mind. Because despite everything, I never stopped believing in what this company could be." I approached his chair and opened a second document on my tablet, my initial business plan, which I had penned in my car the night after I was expelled. The subtitle was Project Phoenix, Modernizing Sterling Enterprises Through Independent Innovation. He fixated on the paper. A dawn of recognition. "This was your plan all along? Plan B. Actually, Plan A was convincing you to modernize from within. But you weren't ready to listen then." Owen Grant got to his feet. "The board needs to vote on this merger proposal by the end of day. I suggest we take a brief recess to process this information." I was left alone with my father as everyone else filed out. He looked lost as he sat there looking over my business proposal. He finally questioned, "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? Really listened, not just heard what you wanted to hear?" He remained silent for a while. "You built all this using our Wi-Fi." I couldn't contain my laughter. "That's what you're focusing on?" "No, he said, stroking his gray hair. "I'm trying to understand how my son went from living in his car to offering to buy my company in less than 2 years. The same way you built this company, by seeing opportunity everyone else missed, by working harder than anyone thought possible. By believing in something bigger than myself." Slowly, he nodded. "Your grandfather would have loved this. You know, he always said the best business lessons come from proving the skeptics wrong. I learned that from you. Actually, all those stories about how you built Sterling Enterprises, how you proved everyone wrong who said it would fail." I took a seat beside him. "I just did it my way instead of yours." The merger was approved by the board in a unanimous vote. After the longest delay of my life, my father cast his vote in favor. The changeover wasn't seamless. Particularly with family companies, change is never easy. However, Sterling Enterprises started to change gradually. The name was retained, but the brand was updated. My grandfather's fundamental business was maintained, but it was improved using technology to enable it to prosper in the digital era. Sterling's steadiness and Smart Start's inventiveness came together to create something that neither business could have done on its own. After a year, I sat in my father's office, which is now our office as he had finally agreed to become Chairman Emeritus. The quarterly figures we were examining had surpassed all expectations. "You were right," he abruptly remarked. I raised my head. "About what?" "About everything?" He looked directly into my eyes and said, "The technology, the market changes, the need to adapt." He pointed to the table displaying our most recent findings and said, "I was too proud to see it. Too afraid of losing control. And now I'm proud of what you built, what we're building together." It buzzed on my phone. Finn sent us a message regarding a possible new acquisition target. Another family firm in trouble that required precisely what we produced. I pulled up the plan and added, "Speaking of building," asking, "What do you think about expanding our enterprise division?" He grinned. The genuine smile I recalled from my early years, before anxiety and tension had hardened him. Tell me more. Later that evening, I passed our former residence. There was still a robust Wi-Fi signal. They were unaware that I had changed their system last month. I reflected on that first night in my car, coding under the light of my laptop, driven by resentment, willpower, and the need to prove everyone wrong. I had discovered, however, that success was not about proving others incorrect. It was about establishing your own credibility and creating something so indisputable that even the most ardent doubters had to admit its worth. My mother reminded me to have family supper as my phone chimed once again. These were now routine occurrences, but the discourse had changed from judgment to sincere interest, from criticism to cooperation. I replied back, "Coming," since I couldn't help but send this over the Wi-Fi. She answered right away. "Very funny. Your father says bring the new acquisition proposal." And yes, he's actually smiling about it. Thinking of how far we'd come, from rejection to reunion, made me smile as well. From rivalry to cooperation. From surreptitiously utilizing their Wi-Fi to assisting them in embracing the digital future. Sometimes proving someone wrong isn't the greatest form of retaliation. It's giving them a whole new perspective on what's right. Boyfriend's undiagnosed chronic pain made him a freeloader, fine for friends. Suspected a fake, I dumped him. Saw someone's post yesterday about navigating life with a partner who has fibromyalgia and felt inspired to post here. I'm hoping you all can give me some solid advice. I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for a little under 2 years. In the time we've been together, his chronic pain, which isn't connected to any particular known condition as he refuses to go to the doctor, has gotten worse and worse. It's reached a point where he's almost incapable of doing chores or house projects, is usually too exhausted. In pain to make or agree to plans, and getting him to do anything outside of the house together is like pulling teeth. His objections always revolve around his pain and fatigue. I've never suffered from chronic pain, and thank God, so I'm not one to judge or accuse someone of making it up, since the pain itself is invisible and my boyfriend looks perfectly healthy, but he's now been unemployed for about 4 months and I'm starting to question things. I'm starting to feel doubtful for a number of reasons, and the main ones are that A. He never turns down his friends' invitations to hang out, even when the activity is something physically intense like kayaking, or going hiking, or going to a music festival, and B. He is never too tired, in too much pain to have sex. Over time it's almost made it seem like he's conveniently in an unbearable amount of pain when he has to do something he isn't all that interested in, chores, and I'm starting to feel hurt that he just doesn't seem to want to hang out with me outside of what we do lazing around the house. I've never accused him of faking or exaggerating his pain, but I have tried to talk to him about doing more fun stuff together, and it always circles back to his pain or him accusing me of trying to keep him from spending time with his friends, which I'm not trying to do by any means. I've done a ton of research into autoimmune disorders and other conditions that could be causing his problem, always bringing my findings and suggestions to him, but he just doesn't believe a doctor or any traditional medicine will help him. I'm also bothered because when we go to family outings or parties that we're both invited to, it's rare, but it does happen. He will talk anyone who will listen ear off about how bad his chronic pain is and how frustrating it is to not be able to find a solution. The thing is, he's not actually looking for a solution. He just smokes weed every day and calls that good enough while lamenting and complaining that his body is the way that it is. He also refuses to return to work because of his pain. For additional context, he seems to have really extreme muscle spasms, tightness, particularly in his back. I'm happy to support him through hard times, but the fact that he won't work is getting concerning and I feel severely stuck. I'm not interested in supporting him financially on a long-standing basis, but at the moment I partially am by covering some of his expenses. If this post makes me a total asshole for questioning the degree of my boyfriend's chronic pain, so be it. I just need help and answers. So, here are my questions. Where do I go from here? Do you think it's possible that my boyfriend is using his pain as a crutch? Should I put some kind of ultimatum in place that will get him medical care and getting attention? Your advice is appreciated. Comments. Comment 1. Even if he does have chronic illness, he isn't doing anything to get a diagnosis or treatment and he is willing to push on for things that benefit him and only him. He's also developed a drug addiction he has no plans of curbing. I am chronically ill. I am busting my ass trying to find answers and help because living like this sucks. I do everything in my power to support my partner and care for our home. While sometimes that's not a ton, I always prioritize contributing to my household over kayaking, which even if I could push through to do, would put me down for a week. This man is using and taking advantage of you, disabled or not. He also has dumped this on you without you consenting to be his financial caretaker. You're not married. There is no in sickness and health here. Leave him. Comment 2. This right here? It's one thing if he was busting his butt trying to find a solution, but he's doing nothing. He's unemployed and not searching for a solution to get him back to work. Is he unemployed? What are his plans for contributing to the household? Considering his inability to function, do you see yourself continuing a life with him, and what would that look like? It's a big question. Do you want kids? Do you want to travel? Is he an excellent homemaker? Comment 3. As someone with chronic pain, even if he wasn't lying, I'd leave him. Chronic pain fucking sucks. I've been there. It's been over 13 years. But it kinda just sounds like he's slowly made you into his bangmaid. Either he's faking it so he doesn't have to work or do any chores, or he has no interest in improving his situation, which isn't sustainable if the person isn't going to pursue medical help or disability benefits. Comment 4. Bangmaid that covers his bills no less. Run. Original poster? Run. Comment 5. That's what we call a mommy bangmaid update. 3 days later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post and was so compassionate and kind. It was incredible to hear from so many people who actively battle chronic pain, illness, and those with loved ones who do. I hope to continue deepening my empathy towards anyone who is struggling with an invisible illness. On to my update. Armed with some fresh perspectives, and some fresh frustrations, LOL, I talked to my boyfriend and told him that he needs to see a doctor or I will no longer be able to support him financially and stand by while he remains unemployed and unmotivated to get the help he needs. I also addressed the idea of balancing his energy levels differently so that we're able to share household responsibilities more effectively, spend quality time together, and keep him doing the things he loves with his friends. His response was really bad. He told me that if I'm not willing to step up and clean around the house, something I'm already doing, that there's no use living together and that my efforts to clean are the bare minimum and not good enough for his standards anyway. He was also really mad that I haven't taken initiative to take care of yard projects and car repairs. He sat there and spouted off a whole list of things I'm not noticing and cleaning. And, once again, he was focused on this idea that I don't like his friends, am jealous of them and want him spending less time with them, which isn't true at all. This really stung. He basically brushed over everything I said and focused on my perceived faults. This told me everything I need to know and I told him I was leaving. He was just mad. Not sad or hurt at all. I'm still crying excessively over his whole reaction. I still don't know how real or unreal his chronic pain is, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Thank you again, everyone, for your support and kindness. I'm truly at a loss. Comments. Comment 1. Original poster. I remember your first post. I know you're very sad right now, and you have a right to be. But don't let grief overstay its welcome. You are so much better off and he just lost his bangmaid. Expect him to come crawling back when he realizes you're serious. Don't believe anything he says. This internet stranger is proud of you. You deserve someone who can be your partner regardless of whether they have an illness. That doesn't mean they're critical or cruel. Comment 2. Oh man. The idea of an unemployed, constantly stoned layabout accusing someone else of not stepping up is just mind-boggling. Good on you for not letting him take advantage anymore. Comment 3. Listen to me. You will wait a week or 2 or 4, but he will try to come back to you. You did everything for him. No one else is going to do that. While taking on all the financial burdens? Yeah, he's toast. He was absolutely faking it. You don't need to think twice about it. Update us when he comes crawling back. Or once his parents are done with him. Good for you. I remember this from the other day and I was so upset that you did all that for so long. You're going to be much better off in life and I'm excited for you. I walked out of the wedding after being humiliated by the groom's best friend with a cruel prank in front of all the guests. Hey, Redditors. This is a furious venting session, a scream for help, but don't worry, I'm feeling better now. It's just the feminine wrath right now. I'll get right to the point and provide an unbiased perspective. So I left my groom at the altar 8 months ago. Yeah, I understand how that sounds. But, before you pass judgment, please hear me out. The person who ends a relationship is typically regarded to be callous, because how can they be upset when they instigated it, right? But this is not true. People in my circumstance will know what I'm talking about. While everyone sympathizes with the individual who is dumped, no one appears to care about the person who musters up the fortitude to stop the relationship. I'm not condoning toxic people who harm their spouses, but some people simply make you unhappy till it becomes your reality. It can take numerous forms. Some males exhibit emotional distance. Some people are always too busy with everything but their partners. Some people lack the courage to stand up for their spouses. Some people mistreat their relationships and dismiss them as mere jokes. Some undermine, gaslight, and deflate their confidence if they do anything slightly excellent to shine or achieve success. My boyfriend possessed all of these beautiful characteristics. Yes, that is a sigh. Let's not even get started on dissecting the character of his excellent best friend, who possessed all of these attributes to an even greater extent. For a long time, these two men made my life terrible, and I assumed that this was how one should live. The tranquility that I now have in my life, after kicking them out, is out of this world. However, they have returned and are wreaking havoc. Because who else yells chaos besides them? So, to help you comprehend this, I'll take you back to my college days. Yes, I admit it, I was stupid enough to date this man for 4 years. But honestly, I was the stupidest person to accept his proposal and chose to marry him. My ex and his best friend have been close since kindergarten and are quite similar. The same sexist, misogynistic, insecure and overconfident characteristics. It wasn't always this horrible. I had good days with my ex. Initially, he was rather charming. And believe me when I tell you, that man knew how to be charming. He tried to impress me and it worked. The first few months went pretty well. After that, the layers began to peel off, revealing his true self. It began with him being constantly unavailable and busy, while partying with his friends. This was what sparked the problems. And then he gaslighted me, convincing me that I was insane and delusional for questioning why he wouldn't give me his time. This lasted for quite some time. When college ended and I was seeking work, he'd laugh in my face in front of our pals and encourage others to join in. His approach went something like this. You'd never get hired, LOL. Even if you do, you'll be fired. This came from my man. And his best friend, who seemed to relish this, would always say, thank God you're pretty. They hired you as eye candy, lol. It felt disrespectful and irritating. And my ex would only chuckle. Every time I argued with my ex, he told all of his buddies about it. He would incorporate a third party in our discussions. And his closest buddy would call me all kinds of names and characterize me as a dramatic and impulsive woman. The stereotypical woman who overreacts to everything and obsesses over little matters. They'd make fun of me everywhere, and it was hurtful. He'd make comments about my beauty, my sense of style, and so on, while my ex would just sit there and chuckle. Now, if I start talking about these things, I'll be able to provide innumerable examples. But that is not what we are here for. As the wedding planning began, it was literally his closest buddy who made all of the decisions. I was the bride. I was going to have my dream wedding. But, no matter what I wanted, we'd only go with what his pal chose. At times, I felt as if he was deliberately choosing something I didn't like just to spite me. For example, I dislike orange flavor, but he chose it for my wedding cake. My ex chose the same option as his pal and forced me to follow suit. Even my wedding gown wasn't my choice. This man, my ex's best friend, was a perfectionist. My fantasy dress was allegedly too garish for his tastes. Everything went on, and I persevered till I couldn't. On my wedding day, something terrible occurred. But now as I look back, I'm grateful it happened. So my ex's best friend wanted to have fun by planning a prank that was quite rude. And that is not all. He also used some harsh words. I will explain. A pregnant woman was carried inside. And it was proclaimed, by none other than my groom's best man, his best friend, that he should not marry this stupid ugly hag. Referring to me, he already had a wonderful girlfriend, who was pregnant with his child. And this wasn't happening in a room with just the four of us. This was happening in front of all of the wedding guests. I was horrified. I wasn't sure how to react. As my tears watered, he began laughing and looked at my groom, asking if he really wanted to live with this dramatic stupidity for the rest of his life. He was being so cruel to me for no reason, and I was simply standing there, unable to speak or cry. This carried on for around 30 minutes. And I was on edge when the girl and the two men began giggling. I've never felt weaker in my life. I felt like my heart was shattering and I was about to die, all while these folks laughed in my face. Then they explained that it was a joke. A prank. Can you imagine how that feels? After humiliating me in front of all the guests and using such language against me, they simply laughed it off, dismissing it as a joke. When I started ranting at them, they just yelled back, saying I was foolish for not knowing how to react to a joke. That was enough to make me realize that I did not want to cope with this for the rest of my life. And so I departed. I simply abandoned my groom at the altar and walked away. They attempted to remedy it, but I left and went missing for around 2 weeks. I needed time to recover from this intense mental anguish. I won't go into great detail about how I healed, but it wasn't an easy process. It was a rough trip, from going to therapy, weeping myself to sleep, or being unable to sleep, and eventually being hospitalized for dehydration and poor eating habits, because I was starving myself. But I healed. Not entirely. Even so, thinking about it all made my eyes water. But I was also working on rectifying it. That's what had to be fixed. Not my shallow relationship, which this nasty man is currently attempting to heal. As I already stated, it has been 8 months. And my ex's best friend is taking his role as a best man, a little too seriously, after spoiling my wedding himself. Call after call. Text following text. From coming to my house to showing up at work, he has done everything he can to make me want to go back to my ex. He believes that this is simply a problem that should be fixed. When I plainly stated that I had ended the relationship and had moved on, he merely asked whether I was dating anybody new. If I had another man in my life, he would most likely leave me alone. However, as a woman, my decision to be single while not in love with my ex was not acceptable to them. It was an issue that needed to be resolved. A dumb prank that escalated and now needs to be solved. I'm so done with this, it is mentally taxing. Because every time this man tries to talk about the past, it brings back unpleasant recollections. Give me some guidance, gentlemen. Update 1, thank you so much for your kind compliments. When I thought about writing this, it was more of a venting session. I did not anticipate people to be so involved. Reading your comments made me feel like a movie character, and you're all developing your own theories. So I saw a couple comments discussing a restraining order, and I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm not sure why I didn't think of that myself, but it's never too late. Speaking about my current circumstances, things are getting pretty annoying, because he has started calling my pals after I blocked his phone number. This is quite frustrating. I'm simply attempting to live my life in the greatest way possible. And he is doing everything he can to avoid it. I'll obtain that restraining order, you know. Update 2. Guys, I received the restraining order. And guess what? I received a text from my ex's best friend's girlfriend, who claimed that her partner was simply being nice, but my move made her believe that I was not worth it because it was such a dramatic thing. Like, dude, is their entire tribe going to annoy me now? I'm really frustrated. Literally. There's so much. It's all the same old drama, and I'm over it. Update 3. Hello there, hopefully this will be my final post. I'm not sure if this was the appropriate thing to do. I contacted my ex. And we had a lengthy chat. I made it obvious that I was no longer interested in him and would never contact him again. Although I refer to it as a discussion, it was primarily me speaking and him agreeing with my sentences. I told him that if his friend didn't stop, I'd have to take severe legal action, as if the restraining order wasn't enough. He told me that I would not be harassed again, and that he would speak with his friend. It's been a week and I haven't heard from him or his best friend. I really hope it stays like way because I am so over these people, and I don't trust them at all. Venting over here has been helpful, and you all are nice people. Thanks. I'm going to sign off for now. NTA, but for your ex and his closest friend. Definitely a holes. Reading this made me really irritated with them. I cannot comprehend how you put up with such behavior.